Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it? You already know. Like a torta with some bad habits. Bye up, bye up. This is a good one. Let's get to the intro. Welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content that I stay kicking. And I appreciate your support, brothers, right? You see all the woods on there, right? And you're like, oh man, there's some good woods. Them are actually skins, right? So let me explain to you what this video entails. What is California's smallest but most vicious, violent, and dangerous group in the prison system? A lot of people will say the Norteños, okay? They are a small group in comparison to the Southsiders, to the blacks, to the whites as a whole, right? Some would say the others, because being a small group and not very heavily populated, the others comprised of the Polynesians, the Asians mostly, are a pretty well-respected group. Vicious and violent only when they have to be, but they're the most kind-hearted, coolest people on the yard, and they pretty much get along with everyone until they don't, right? The Native Americans, the natives, are a very small group, but tend to stick to themselves, do their own time, only get off when there's an upsetting situation within their people. They are known to remove their people if they believe they are not pure native. They are known to handle their business, but it's not them. The Paisas. The Paisas, depending upon where you go and what prison, they might be deep. There might be 50 of them. There may be 10 of them, right? But the Paisas usually are under the Southsiders umbrella. So if anything usually goes down with the Southerners, the Paisas are right there rocking alongside of them. And the Southsiders with their reglas are told to, aid and abet the Paisas at all times. Now, one thing about the Paisa group is if they're saying Chino prison and there's nothing but Southerners there, they're going to function with the Southerners. If they go up north to like San Quentin and they hit a yard with Northerners, they're not going to function with the Northerners, but they're going to be cool with them. They're not going to be in direct opposition and have to get off the yard, and Northerners are not going to take off on them unless maybe one or two of them are, they're seen as someone who was putting in work with Southerners in different prisons. If they're recognized, right, then of course it could be an issue. But for the most part, they just do their own time. So no, they're not the most vicious and violent group at all. Paisas do get in the mix and they do handle their business, but it's not like they're seeking, they're gangbanging, or they're out there looking for drama. It just kind of lands on their fucking lap all the time. Now, the group that to me always was one of the most deadliest, dangerous, hardest groups, and even within their own people, they had this superiority complex, was the skinheads, right? Now, you think when you're white, you go into prison, brother, right? You're going to be a wood and you're going to function as a wood, and it's going to be all good. The white man's going to show you love because skin it, brother, right? Because it's all good, but it ain't nothing like that. It ain't nothing like that. See, there's another group within that group, and that group are the skinheads. People that already come into prison with the ideology and a mindset of racial hatred. Dudes that already come in and they're a part of something from the streets. Usually the skinhead philosophies are not adapted to or adopted in prison. Most of the guys that come into the prison system, woods, right, with the ideology already have a firm grip and grasp on what exactly they are. Now, one thing I notice about skinheads is they only fuck with woods, okay? Only fuck with white men, but don't really care about the woods program, don't really like the woods. The only reason that they even function together is because they're up under a prison organization's umbrella, and so they're kind of forced into that. But the skinheads, if they could, I'm sure would be their own entity, their own group. They are a group within the group. Now, I did time in Susanville on Lassen Yard. It was a 3-yard, and the nickname for that place was Susie's house, right? But there was another nickname for that actual prison, and it was called the White House. And the reason it was called the White House is because the woods and the skins, especially the skins, were about 150 to 200 deep on that yard. That was the deepest I ever seen them in a prison setting in my life, right? And they had all the good jobs. Usually when you go to a prison, the Southerners, the Southsiders, they pretty much have things sewed up. They are all on the yard crews. You know, they got all the cush jobs, the Bonnaroo jobs, Cadillac jobs, right? The jobs that everybody wants, the lead chef, the whatever, right? And you'll see some brothers, man, brothers usually that are lifers, that are well respected, that have been around for a long time. They have the Bonnaroo jobs too. But in this particular prison at this particular time, it was 2007. Them skins had it going on, man, because of that place. And that place is a little racial as it is with the guards, right? Guards are all big old woods, big old white men, right? They had it locked in. They had all the dope. They had all the trades. They had all the jobs. Like they had everything sewed up. And these skinheads were marching on this yard. They were letting it be known. I remember going to the hole and skins were on the yard pretty much working out. And they took off their t-shirts and there was so much racial hatred tattoos on them. And it just, they were doing the Sieg Heil and doing all that crazy stuff, right? Now, having done time with skinheads, I could tell you, man, the myth of them functioning with Southsiders and always getting involved in Southern fucking things when they got conflict with blacks or with other groups, that's a lie. That's a myth. In fact, during my time in prison in different states and a lot of years, right, the majority of the riots, the melees, the assaults that I seen happen were between Southsiders and skins. Not Southsiders and woods. That went down too, but Southsiders and skins. Because skinheads had this thing where they refused to compromise or to take dictation from a Mexican. And being that the Southerners, the Southsiders are Mexican, skinheads weren't gonna listen. They were gonna do their own thing because they already had an element of hate towards the racial ethnicity of that group, right? So that's just how that was going down. So this group is the most violent because they pretty much hate everybody. It's not like a hatred that like you hate a person just because you don't like the way they look or the way they talk or what they eat. Nothing like that. It was a deep-rooted dark hatred, a hatred for anyone who wasn't their pigmentation, for anyone. You know, it was one of those old sayings, if it ain't white, it ain't right, brother. Well, if it ain't a skin, you ain't in. And these dude had those, you could easily identify them and separate them from the woods. Woods mostly had the tattoos, long hair, big handlebar mustaches. Or you got new school woods now that were just, they look like regular white dudes, man. Big pot bellies and shit, all tatted down. And they'll fuck you off. Man, don't sleep on the woods in prison. It's funny to me when people are like, oh, man, oh, this dude, he's a white dude. He ain't going to do shit. Better ask somebody about the knives that they create in there. They don't make knives. They make axes and swords in prison. I'm just telling you right now. The best pieces ever made were made either by Northerners, Southerners, and especially by woods, right? And that's just the truth. That's the facts. So, anyways, you could just tell the difference with the skins. These guys got the big old chops. Usually they're bald. Every once in a while you see them with a little bit of hair, man, if they're coming out of the hole. If they're coming out of the shoe kick out or whatever, their hair grew out or whatever, but they immediately bick it. It's just part of their ideology, you know, and they get some of the craziest tattoo work on them. Their face is blasted, their whole body blasted. They want everyone to know what they represent. They wear their high boots, their long cutoff shorts. They got that element to them where you know their skins, and that's it. And I've seen so much violence and so many assaults take place within the white car because skinheads got into it with woods, right? You know, you see a whole bunch of whites on the yard. Oh, them are the woods. Maybe some of them, but some of them are skinheads. And like I said, they're a whole different group. They're going to kick it with the woods because of the manpower, because of the numbers, and because they're white. But skinheads are always on go time. In fact, there was a lot of times that there was green lights put on skinheads and they weren't allowed, like the American Skins and other groups, Fame, all these different groups. They weren't allowed to function around other woods. Woods were taking flight on them. And it was because a lot of these skinheads, man, didn't want to take into the philosophies of a wood. They just wanted to do their thing. So let me explain to you about one of the craziest skinheads I ever met. I was doing time. I was on the yard. And I meet this skinhead. Ain't no doubt about it. He has a Swazi right here. You can just tell he's skinned out the game. And I was out of state doing time. And so the interaction was a little bit better than California. In California, I would have been on my own side of the yard. Probably would have never said other than good morning or how you doing to these skinheads. And usually, man, if you're Mexican or black or whatever, they ain't got no words for you. You know what they're about. They're not hiding it, right? They don't like you. And so, but in this particular state, man, everybody was about their business, but there was more interaction, okay, more common courtesy, more respect, I guess, amongst each other as human beings. But this dude was cut from a different cloth. You knew he didn't fuck with anybody. He had probably one of the most racial tattoos on his back that I ever seen in my life. I ended up doing time with him in a shoe program. It's similar to a shoe program. And I've told that story. He got into some people. At this time, I didn't know exactly who he was. But this guy was a pariah on the yard. Even Woods didn't like to be around him because of his ideologies, right? Like he was super skinhead out the game. He came in from that. He's from like Alabama somewhere. So he came with a whole different idea than what was exactly going on there. And I see him one day and he's right there by the weight pile. And I'm walking around where the Woods work out. And I'm like, hey, what's up? He's like, oh, we just happened to face to face. What's up? What's up? Hey, how you doing? And so where I was doing some bar work was kind of close. And so we got to chopping it up. You know, I'd walk the track with him. We became cool up to a certain point. Like I knew he didn't fuck with too many people. And I watched his hands close, right? This dude starts telling me stories about what he's in for. And let me tell you what he did. This man literally, right, got into it with some people of the opposite skin color. And they shot him. They ended up shooting him. He got shot in the hip, right? Blew his hip out. He walked with like a little bit of a limp. And so what he did was he went and he knew where these guys, like their younger family was, the 20-year-olds, and they used to party at this club. He went into this club and one by one, he would lure them out of the club and he was tying them up and throwing them in his trunk, right? He took them, tied them, put things around their neck. I don't want to say certain words because people are going to be mad, but he put certain rope knots around their neck and drug them for like 8 miles through town, right? That's what he was locked up for. He was doing several life sentences because every one of them passed, right? It was like 6 or 7 people he did that to, like all at one time, dragging them down the street in his monster truck. He was a fucking nut. So anyways, a lot of people knew what his crime was. Once he ran me down, once a couple other homies were like, oh, that fool's a fucking nut. Then I realized he was the real deal. This was a real skinhead. This was my first time ever around a real one. Like, and there was probably other real ones, but someone who really fucking lived that life, right? And so what happened with this guy was one day he's on the yard and he's gambling. He's gambling amongst woods. And there's a black dude that's close. And this black dude was like an older dude. He was cool, but he was loud, right? He liked to just be loud, just do his thing. Like he was a non-affiliate, so he wasn't a Crip or Blood or nothing like that. He was just one of those dudes that floated around the yard, kind of blended in. Was cool with everybody, right? But he happened to be in close proximity where the Woods were playing at a table, gambling, and so he started throwing his 2 cents in, like, "Oh man, you had the hand." They were playing spades. I remember. He's like, "Oh man, you did count your books wrong. This, and that." And I could see the skinhead dude getting madder and madder, right? And I'm over there doing bar work. There's like, okay, so the makeup of this place, there's the weights. They weren't free weights at the time. It was just cable weights. Then they had fucking bar work right here. There's a few tables, and that's mostly where the whites would kick it, some others. And then right there next to that was more bars and stuff. And so the black dudes, they were on those bars. The Woods would be on these bars. We'd be on the same bars where the Woods were at. And we kind of went wherever, right? Whatever we can get in, because Northerners, there wasn't a lot of us. So it was get in where you fit in. So anyways, he's standing at the table. That black dude's right there, and he's kind of not out of bounds because, like I said, this prison you can be wherever, but shouldn't have been around all these dudes, even speaking to him, right? But he's doing it. And one of the Woods that worked with them, they worked in the kitchen. So he's like, oh man, ooh, I forget the black dude's name. He's like, yeah, whatever, right? So they're arguing back and forth, but not in a bad way. So the skinhead's like, hey, bro, why don't you get the fuck with your own people? He tells him. I was like, oh, because this black dude he's an old convict. Them old convicts will fuck you up. They'll come out with a big ass sword and just cut you, right? And I'm just like, and the black dude's like, all right, that's cool, man. I see you, Wood. I see you, right? He's like, I ain't a fucking Wood, bro. I'm a fucking skinhead. And I'm proud, right? And I was like, oh my God, it's about to go down black and white. I'm gonna watch this shit, right? Damn, I didn't get no popcorn, no nothing, right? And so I'm saying, so the black dude kind of walks off, like whatever, and he goes and tells the other brothers, right? So now I tell my couple homeboys that are on the yard, and I kind of already see the Southerners like grouping together. I'm like, it's just like that in prison is how it goes down, right? And the skin, he's still playing his cards. He's not even tripping, right? The woods are right there. They're all talking, whatever. I'm like, man, these woods are going to take flight, or these blacks are going to take, someone's going to take flight, right? Let me tell you what happened. Nothing. The yard, it's yard recall. Everybody's on their toes, right? Watching, waiting for the brothers to get off or something, right? And he doesn't. He doesn't get off. And I said, okay, this ain't over though. Knowing the brothers, man, they didn't have nothing out here. They're going to go get something and they're going to come back on the next line movement, whether it's chow or yard or whatever, and they're going to do their thing. And so the skinhead's just proud with mob and big old swastikas everywhere. He has a tattoo on his back that's crazy, right? Just I can't even explain it on here. It's nuts. So, anyways, everyone goes back to the blocks. Cool, man. I tell him, I say, you see that shit? He's like, yeah, I seen that. He's like, man, that skinhead, bro, he ain't no joke. He's probably gonna come out and do something. I was like, nah, it's on the brother to do something, man. He disrespected the brother, right? The brother kind of disrespected him by getting in, even saying anything, getting involved with them. He should have known better. Everyone knows leave that skinhead alone, but whatever, right? And so we go to the next yard. We go to chow. Everything's good. No one's even talking about it. Everyone's laughing. The brothers are laughing. Woods are laughing. Whatever, right? We go out to the yard. And so now I'm watching that old dude, right? He's older. He's probably like in his late 50s at the time. I was in my 20s. So he's in his late 50s. I'm watching him. He's like how old I am now, almost. And I don't see nothing. I don't see him being suspicious, passing no weapon, like nothing. I see a couple youngsters with him, like normal. This dude always had a beanie on. I remember he always had a beanie in the back of his head, like Adebisi from the show Oz, right? And just an older black dude, always wore a jean coat. And he's old school convict. He probably had the fucking telephone books around his shit, right? And I'm watching him, nothing. And I look at that skinhead, and let me tell you guys something. You hear about the devil, how the devil looks with horns and shit? That was a white devil, brother. Right? That motherfucker was deviled out the game. His eyes were damn near red. He was like seething, foaming at the mouth, upset. He looked like a rabid pit bull. And he's watching the black dude like a hawk, right? And I'm looking, and all the woods are like right there. Man, let me tell you something. This white dude this skinhead jumped up out of his chair. He was sitting at the table, the same table where they're the black dude's walking the track. This fool and two other skinheads, right? There was probably like 6 or 7 skinheads on this yard. The rest were woods, probably about 40 white dudes total on the yard, maybe 50, right? These 3 dudes took off. They're walking fast on the track, speed walking. This black dude's walking with these 2 youngsters. Before that black dude could ever see what happens, these two youngsters that are walking with them, the black dudes, they turn around like, what's up? These other 2 skinheads start taking flight with them. This dude jumped. The skinhead, he's swole too. He jumped in midair, grabbed the black dude, and bit his nose off. It was crazy, right? I was like, what the fuck, right? It was down. That was shooting on the yard. Everybody went down. That was a fact. That was the truth. That black dude was on the yard missing the tip of his nose. They ended up taking that skinhead off the yard. That was it. Later on, years down the line, I go to a thing called IMU. It's like a SHU, right? Like a SHU program, intensive management unit. And I go ask JD Delay about it. He'll tell you, right? So I end up going there. And I've told the story. He was my neighbor, right? And he used to get magazines. He was a skinhead. And he used to get magazines, like all different types of magazines, mechanic magazines, Playboy magazines, like everything. And what he would do is he had common courtesy and respect for the tiers. So for the Mexicans, he'd shoot it. And other whites, he'd shoot his magazines. We could read them and shit. Even though skinheads don't like Mexicans either, like the ones in prison are cool. I don't know why, right? With Mexicans, but they don't. It's not like they like them, but they don't hate them as much, right? And so he would shoot his magazine down, let us all read them. We pass them cell to cell, whatever. They circulate and come back down the tier, and bam, he'll get his magazines back. But he was a righteous dude for doing that, And so this black dude was next door to me, and he wanted to see the magazines, and they got into a whole verbal altercation over it, and it was crazy. And I remembered, like, hey, bro, you're the fucking dude who did that shit, and it just was what it was. But anyways, I just want to put out there in California, one of the most slept on, violent, vicious groups is the skinheads, because they fight amongst their own race. They fight everyone on the yard, right? There's not very many of them, so you don't hear a lot of incidences with them. But when it does go down with the skins, Bro, I'm telling you, they're on the next level shit. So they're probably, to me, per capita, the number of them, because there's even less of them than the Northerners. They're probably the most violent group for the size of them. Let me know what you guys think if you want to debate it. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and strive for what I honestly and truly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people. This video right here is sponsored by Barrio Liquors in Turlock, California. If you're in the Central Valley, pull up to the Barrio and get you something cold to drink. Also by Sticks and Stones Yard Service in Tucson, Arizona, man. If you're in the Tucson area, make sure you Google Sticks and Stones for a yard quote and estimate, man. Mention Gunners Collective and you get 10% off. Handle it, man. Let's help our small local raza businesses. This is the gun. Leave a comment. Bang, bang.